Hey guys, it's Chris. From ancient cities overgrown by the jungle to places we didn't even believe were real. Join me as I reveal 8 lost cities that were rediscovered. Number 8. The Lost City of Honduras. One of the many truths of our world is that we haven't explored every single inch of the planet yet, especially when it comes to the deep, dense jungle. Even today, there are some places where you can still come across things that have been lost to time. In Honduras, researchers ventured into the remote Mosquitia rainforest to search for the legendary White City. The ancient inhabitants of Mosquitia are one of the least known cultures in Central and South America. Of course, there's a debate as to whether this city was ever truly lost. The proof of this ancient civilization was found in 2015 by a team of scientists who came across plazas, earthworks, mounds, and a pyramid. They found numerous artifacts of jaguars, a spiritual figure of the people. Because of the density of this rainforest in Honduras, the area itself was first scanned in the air via a laser detection system known as LiDAR. Though reports of such a place have been reported as far back as 1920 via a pilot who noticed it in the air while flying overhead, no one has been able to find the spot until 2015. This place is surrounded by true jungle wilderness, and the place is protected by monsoons and hurricanes, making it difficult for people to reach. Besides this exciting find, the team also came across very rare animals, including creatures that hadn't been seen for decades, including the pale-faced bat and the false tree coral snake. Number 7. Helike. For millennia, the ancient legend of Atlantis has entranced many a person. And to this day, Atlantis lives as part of the world's culture via fantasies and stories. But in Greece, a real-life Atlantis did exist in some extent, in the form of Helike. Unlike the stories, Helike wasn't a super advanced civilization like Atlantis. However, the legends did state that the Sea God Poseidon drowned the city because of his wrath against the people there. Apparently, the people of Helike drove out his followers, and so the god sank the city. However, no one's really sure if the city was real, or just another legend, until the late 1990s when 2 archaeologists set out to find the lost city. And they did. And unlike the legends of Atlantis, which state that the civilization is somewhere in the ocean, the remains of Helike were found on the Earth. The city itself vanished around 373 BC, but as the archaeologists found it, it wasn't because of a massive tidal wave or similar event that sank the city. It was actually liquefaction. Apparently, an earthquake happened near Helike, and that got the land the city was on to basically turn into a very soft, watery lagoon. This caused the city to literally sink into the earth itself, and eventually it became solid again. The city remained buried, thus ensuring no one would find it for some time. Now, there are conflicting theories about how Helike sank, as well as emerging theories such as an earthquake causing a tidal wave that helped liquefy the ground and thus got the city to sink. Either way, though, the city was buried and it wasn't found for nearly 2 millennia. Number 6. Neapolis. A more recent discovery that happened was the finding of the ancient Roman city of Neapolis. It was said that this city was drowned by a tsunami over 1,700 years ago. That being said, this particular lost city has been in the crosshairs of many scientists. They began their search for it in 2010, and due to weather conditions, they were finally able to get it located. The city itself is pretty massive, taking up over 50 acres of land underwater. And it was soon clear that the historical accounts of it being taken by a tsunami were accurate. There were telltale signs of tsunami damage in the remains of the city. Neapolis was actually a well-documented city. It was written when the event that sunk the city happened in 635 AD, for historian Ammian Marcellin made note of the event. And it was also recorded that the earthquake that caused the tsunami that took out Neapolis, which means new city in Greek by the way, also hurt Alexandria and Crete. It's unclear what all will be found within this city that can shine a light on ancient Rome, but the discovery itself made many people really happy, as it solved a long-standing mystery of history. And now for number 5, but first be sure to subscribe to World List and click that little notification bell if you're new here. Number 5. Xanadu. There were many stories of China that Marco Polo told upon his return to Italy, but one of the grandest was that of the palace of Kublai Khan, the first ruler of China during the Yuan dynasty. Khan had a palace so grand and magnificent that it was said he kept 10,000 white horses on the premises, had a massive park right outside, and it was all made of marble. Furthermore, Marco Polo noted that the palace also had massive dragon statues as well. But when the Ming army destroyed most of it in 1369, no one from Europe or beyond had the chance to look at it with their own eyes. And as time went on, the palace only became something of myths and legends. Eventually, though, it was rediscovered, and with it came vindication for Marco Polo, as his descriptions of the building were very nearly perfect. The park was there, as were the remains of many horses in the form of fossilized bones, and the palace was even twice that of the White House in terms of size. The palace is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site and visited by many. As for the dragon statues, those were also found in the area. The dragons were on top of pillars, exactly where Marco Polo said they would be. Number 4. Dewarka. Dewarka, which has also been called Dewarka on occasion, is a legendary city from India that eventually found its way beneath the waves. As for the people of India, it's a city that represents a great deal in their religion. The reason for this was that when the city was once above ground, it was said to be the home of Lord Krishna, the Hindu deity. According to Hindu lore, Lord Krishna was the reincarnation of the creator of the world, so his significance in the religion is quite well known for those who believe in it. Further examining the lore, about 5,000 years ago, Dewarka city was built under the supervision of Lord Krishna himself. And not only did he want the place to be decorated in silver, emeralds, and crystals, he also wanted a palace for every single one of his wives, of which he had 16,000 at the time. However, the lore states that the city was later destroyed as Krishna and another god did battle, and the result of this battle was that the city sank into the waters below. And it wasn't until much later that archaeologists were able to find it, exactly where it was supposed to be, though the layout was similar to another city of the period, also called Dewarka, which was made 9,000 years ago. Number 3. Sigiriya. King Kassapa ruled Sri Lanka in the 5th century AD, and he had an idea to create a grand castle for himself and his wives and subjects. So he decided that his palace would be one that would be put atop a 650-plus foot boulder. To reach it, you'd have to go through a large staircase that looked like a lion, one made of plaster and brick. The catch, though, was that shortly after the completion of the castle itself, his brother Moggallana attacked. In short order, King Kapsa, his armies, and his families were wiped out. Sigiriya, as it was called, was conquered and went through many changes over the years before being forgotten. Eventually, it was nothing more than a story told when talking about the king. However, that didn't stop a bunch of European archaeologists from going out to try to find the palace. And sure enough, they found it in the 1800s. But full-scale archaeological work didn't start on it until the 1900s. Regardless, the palace is just as the legends described, including that massive lion. It still remained and welcomed you to the palace. Eventually, the site became a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is now dubbed the 8th wonder of the world. Number 2. Pompeii. Arguably one of the most legendary, terrifying, and historically important stories ever told is that of Pompeii. Pompeii was a city that was once very glorious and important until Mount Vesuvius erupted. And when it did, it buried the city and those around it in ash. When comparing it to other volcanoes of history, the eruption of Vesuvius is considered one of the greatest eruptions ever. For when it erupted in 79 AD, it didn't just send lava into the ground. It hurled massive clouds of deadly gases and ash into the air, which slowly rained down on the city and its people. Some scientists even believed that it was ejecting molten rock, pulverized pumice, and hot ash at 1.5 million tons per second. As a result of the eruption, both Pompeii and its sister city of Herculaneum were buried via the outpour of the volcano in terms of lava and ash. The first true findings of Pompeii afterwards were in 1592, but it was hundreds of years later that the full city was uncovered after multiple excavations, and a couple lucky breaks in terms of where to look for the legendary city. It's now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And while it is protected, many archaeologists look at the city and continue to find artifacts of the city from when it was buried. Number 1. Ciudad Perdida. Located in Colombia's Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, Ciudad Perdida is a lost city that was both lost and found in rather unique ways. The city was made over 600 years before the legendary Machu Picchu. Around 1300 years ago, the people who made it were the Tairona. And according to the history of the city, it's said that their god commanded them to make a city that would reside in the mountains so they would be closer to the stars. For around 800 years, the Tairona lived happily. Then the Spanish conquistadors came to South America and began their reign of terror. On one hand, the Tairona had no immediate contact with them and didn't fight them like many other South American tribes. However, the Spanish conquistadors brought with them diseases, one that the tribe's immune system couldn't battle, and thus they all died out. With no one to remember the city, the place was left alone and abandoned. Fast forward to the 1970s, and a group of bandits discovered the place. When they did, there were loads of treasures to be had, so they looted the place and sold the finds to the black market. And it was here that archaeologists found out about Ciudad Perdida and started searching for it themselves, eventually finding the city in the mountains. And then they did their best to preserve it. Though more modern conflicts have caused this lost city problems, it still stands to this day and continues to be examined by historians and archaeologists. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these amazing lost cities that were rediscovered after years of being hidden? Which ones were your favorite? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to World List before you leave.